What's up guys, this is Adam from 3dmodelsworld.com and welcome to another Maya tutorial. And today we're gonna create a puddle effect and also a wet surface effect. We're gonna be using pretty simple approach and it's not very complicated to do, but it can give you pretty good results and really fast also to render. So without further delay, let's get started. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to show you guys this quick reference I have. So this way we can talk about what the effect we're trying to achieve to simulate in Maya. So as you can see here, this ground is wet and there's some parts of it is dry. And for the wet ground you can see that there is a high reflection and also the material is darker. So the dry parts you can see here is it's light, the material is light, it's not dark, and also doesn't reflect as much. And for the wet parts, like this area here, is very reflective and also the color is dark. So that's basically the two main things we need to simulate in this tutorial. We're gonna have like the wet areas are dark and reflective and the dry areas is normal color and not as reflective. Okay, so let's go to Maya. So this is the scene I have. It's pretty simple. You can see this is the ground plane and I have sky and a directional light for the shadows. Okay, and this is the camera view. So if you render right now, so this is what we got when we render. It's the basic colors. So let's create the material for the ground. First let's go select the ground and right click and assign new material, and then let's click on Arnold and let's select AI standard surface. Yeah, and then let's name it. Okay, so there's a few things here we need to adjust. First, let's assign the texture for our material. So let's go to the hypershade. I already have the textures here. So first, this is the diffuse map and we're gonna apply a normal map as well. But for the normal, let's change the color space from sRGB to raw, because we don't want the color information to be changed. Okay, now everything here is good. And let's go back to the materials, ground, and let's take the file of the diffuse and add it to the color. And then let's scroll down to the geometry, and then let's select the normal map and apply it to the bump. And let's go to the settings. It's repeating 3 times, that's good. And let's change it from bump to tangent space normals. And you can actually tone it down. So let's look here and then let's tone it down, maybe 0.5. Okay. So now we have the basic shader already created. Let's go back to the material, click on it and click on the connections so you can see everything. Okay, that's good. Now if we render, okay, so it's done rendering and you can see now since we have the specular all the way up, so it's getting a pretty reflective material. And that's fine, we don't need to change the settings right now because we're gonna be using a different way to adjust the specular here. So we can keep everything as it is. I just wanted to show you what it looks like right now. And I just want to mention that the way we're gonna create this wet shader for the puddles, it's gonna be one way of doing this. It's not the only way. There's, I'm sure, multiple ways you can do this, but this way is pretty fast and you can get really nice results. In order to create the wet parts and then the dry parts in our image, we need to create like a mask and apply this mask to our specular and then also to our diffuse, and then have this mask basically adjust the reflections and how dark the material is based on this mask settings. So this way we can always change it and adjust it very easily. So let's close this render, and to create this mask, let's go to the 2D textures and let's create noise. Okay, so this is the noise we have. We basically need to create like the puddles here, and we just want to make it you know, kind of big difference between the black areas and the white areas. Now it's kind of like mixed and it's going to be hard to see the results. Okay, so let's change some settings here. Let's change the ratio all the way to 0 so you can see we can start to get really big difference here. And let's change the frequency to 1. And then here we can change the frequency from 8. The higher the frequency, the smaller, you know, these like white areas, and we want them to be big because that's what's gonna affect how reflection, but we don't want it to be too big like that. So maybe like 10.4 would be good. And then let's scroll down. Of course you can animate these if you want. So for the density you can like change it to become less or more, but let's keep it at 1. And then let's change the size random from 0 to just like adjust it a little bit like that, you know, so this way we don't get all the circles all the same, like so they are different sizes to them. You can change this randomness. It's pretty interesting effect. It makes everything looks super like organized, but this is good. So I like this one. We can use this one for now, and then we can always tweak it to get the result we want. In order to connect it correctly to our shader, let's select it and let's figure out which attributes we need to be connecting the noise to. So the first attribute we want to look at is the specular, and we want to connect it to the specular weight. So this is basically how much spec gonna be applied. So 0 will be like completely non-reflective, and 1 is gonna be very reflective. So we want this noise we just created to be applied into this specular. Also we need to connect the noise texture to the diffuse roughness, and this is gonna help apply some roughness on the material and gonna help us blend nicely and have a nice subtle effects gonna be on our shader. So those two attributes we're gonna be basically applying this noise texture we just created to effect. So let's start with the specular. So first let's select the alpha and let's put it into the specular, and as you can see immediately here it's updated with all that shiny parts and then non-shiny parts. Okay, and then the next thing, let's render actually and see what it looks like. So this is what we had before. Let's save this image and let's render. Okay, so you can see the difference. Now we already have some parts have like wet already looks like, and other parts looks more dry. But let's enhance this contrast between them and make it more noticeable. And let's also take this out alpha and then plug it into the diffuse roughness. Okay, let's click on the material, make sure everything's connected. Let's go back, let's save this image and render. Okay, it's done rendering, and you can see the difference. Let's make it blend better and also make the dry areas more noticeable. And also I really like how it blends between the dry areas and the wet areas as well. So it's kind of nice effect. And always we can also apply similar to the weight of the diffuse, because the weight diffuse also is responsible for how bright it is. And now it was the default 0.8 and we can increase it to 1. And let's render and see what we got. You can see also the affecting helps brighten things up in general, so that's good. Okay, so let's go back to this noise, and then let's try experiment with different noise types. So now let's change it to parallel noise, and let's see what kind of effect we got. So you can see already here. Let's render and see what we got. Okay, so it's done. So now you see it's not as noticeable as this one, but with changing the settings, if we keep changing the settings on the noise and adjusting it, we would be able to get something similar to this. The one downside to this like noise that we applied using the below type is you can see the circles are too perfect, and that's kind of like, you know, make it more look like CG. This looks more natural. Once you start to get the settings to work correctly, you're gonna get a more natural result. But this is how you can do this effect by just basically creating this kind of mask and then applying it to the specular and also applying it to that diffuse as well. So this way you can have the material have wet parts and then dry parts. Hopefully this tutorial helped you guys. Let me know if you have any questions, and please subscribe for more future videos. Feel free to check our website 3dmodelsworld.com for more tutorials and cool 3D assets. Until next time, take care.